bleed green? Are you an ultimate Eagles football fan? Well, you're in the right place. This is Birds 365, hosted by the new Mac and Mac, Jody McDonald and John McMullen.
Here we go!
Who collectively have covered and talked about more than 50 plus years of Eagles football. Kick off your day with Birds 365. You'll get debate.
We love to argue.
You'll get the real story from inside the locker room. And you'll hear from some of the great football minds from around the region. You're about to become an Eagles insider. Get in the game. Join Jody Mack and Johnny Mack and join the football community that flocks to Birds 365. Birds 365 starts right now.
Welcome to the NFL. Let's go! Let's go!
EAGLES, Eagles.
You've got the Mac and Mac guys, John McMullen and Jody McDonald here with you on a Free Agent Thursday on Birds 365 on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. Thank you very much for streaming in with us. J-Mac, the first official day of the new year of the National Football League, when all those contracts we've been reporting for the last 3 days, all those agreements we've been reporting got made official yesterday. Eagles still at it. Nothing as earth-shattering as the first couple of days, but getting one of their more important players, a.k.a. their MVP from last season, but possibly locked up, taking care of Jake Elliott, their kicker for the next 4 years, signs a lengthy contract. You don't get kickers getting 4-year deals. You better be as good as Jake Elliott to command a 4-year deal.
Highest paid kicker in NFL history, tied Justin Tucker, too.
Yeah, and that's a pretty good guy to be tied with, who might be the best kicker in the history of the National Football League. Good on Jake Elliott. He's been that good, that clutch for the Philadelphia Eagles. And good on the Eagles for getting the deal done. By extending him, of course, it gives them leverage and flexibility to be able to move numbers around the way they want and gives them a little extra money to play with this year. Does that mean they're going to be jumping into the linebacker market, Johnny Mac, now that they got extra money from getting Jake Elliott done?
Well, they're going to add a linebacker sometime, somewhere, someplace. Remember, last year it was August with Zach Cunningham. So,
right.
And Miles Jack. People forget Miles, but that didn't work out. So, once they got a look at what they had brought in, they had to go in a different direction. Yeah, I mean, we've been through this before. You know, Josina Anderson, who does a great job, and I know Eagles fans don't like her from the past, but she does a tremendous job, and she put the Eagles are still on the hunt for a linebacker, and I take issue with that. If they were hunting for a linebacker, they'd have a linebacker. They're trying to bargain shop for a linebacker. So semantics aside, they're going to add a linebacker, but I don't want to hear we're on the hunt for a linebacker. I mean, if you're on the hunt for a linebacker, you get something done. And forget about Patrick Queen at the top of the market, because I never thought they were going to go near that. And people say, well, you didn't think they'd go near Saquon Barkley. And that's true. So you never know. But clearly in Queen's case, they weren't involved. They never got involved. So, and then there was a bunch of guys that you thought, maybe that's a fit. Maybe that's an upgrade. Some of the guys that worked with people in the past, Al Shire with the new linebackers coach, Josie Jewell with Vic Fangio, Jerome Baker with Vic Fangio, and he's still out there. So, maybe that's still in play. He's one of the few guys with any kind of pedigree that's still out there. Blake Cashman, I thought, would be a good fit. Some of the veteran guys, big name guys, Bobby Wagner signed with the Commanders. Eric Kendrick signed with the Cowboys. I mean, I didn't expect him to go after guys like that. But maybe they should have. If they think they're a contender.
Let me ask you, why not? I get it. You're not going multi-year. You're not going big bucks. But they didn't get
I don't know. It's a legitimate question, because obviously they think they're still a contender. So what's the harm in going for a veteran player? I mean, I've argued that at running back with once I saw the Jones contract, I'm like, what's not only what's going on with the Eagles, but what's going on with the league? Because he played so well down the stretch last season. And if you can get him for $7 million, why not do it? But I digress. With linebacker, yeah, be nice to have. I'll tell you what, Bobby Wagner's old, but he's going to the Hall of Fame and he can still play. And he's be the best linebacker this city has seen in a very long time, even at his advanced age. So
he played well for Seattle last year. He played well against the Eagles when the Eagles went out and lost that game in Seattle last year. Is he the Bobby Wagner of the Legion of Boom? No, of course he isn't. But left Seattle, went to the Rams, came back. This past year, they swapped out their coach in Seattle. So maybe that signaled the reason why he left. But he was still a pretty good player. If you're talking just 1 year, and that's all we're talking, that's all Wagner got from the Commanders. I'm guessing that when the season's over and done with, whoever the Eagles fill in for the other linebacker spot, not named Nakobe Dean, I'll bet you Wagner has just as productive a year.
Oh, so do I. I mean, you talk about we've been talking about first ballot Hall of Famers a lot lately. Is this guy a first ballot Hall of Famer? Is this guy a first ballot Hall of Famer? This guy's a 10-time. Let me repeat that: 10-time All Pro, not Pro Bowl, All Pro. Now, he has a history with Dan Quinn. Maybe it's that. Eric Kendricks has a history with Mike Zimmer. Maybe it's that. But yeah, it'd be nice if the Eagles would add a linebacker. And I don't care if he's old, young. Right now, they're starting linebackers, Jody, all Paul linebackers. I always got to make that stacked linebackers. I always got to make that distinction. Are Nakobe Dean and Ben Van Sumeren. I mean, lucky you're not playing on Sunday. I'll say that.
Still in that starting line. He did play for the Eagles. He got into some games last year because of injuries and issues and the like, but don't need Ben Van Sumeren as a starting linebacker for the Eagles. So that is still Josiah Anderson could call you on Hunting. Well, they could have got hunting.
Yeah,
they could have got hunting for Lions. They're right now at best going to bag themselves a big fat rabbit. Not quite the same, but they can.
Well, I guess you can. Right I guess you can hunt at the Walmart clearance aisle. You got to pick through stuff, so I guess you can still hunt. For
different type of hunting, exactly. I do want to touch on this story because I was surprised when I read it yesterday. Not surprised by where it came from because Mike Florio, who I've told Mike Florio.
I was wondering if you're going to get it. God bless Mike. Man, he's got 1,001 conspiracy theories. God bless him.
He used to have Mike Florio on as a quasi-regular guest for me, and then he blew up and became a big star and cut a deal with NBC. And Mike Florio likes to get paid to come on here, make guest appearances, and my stature and status doesn't merit being paid.
I respect that because he's Kirk Cousins. Squeeze out every nick you can get.
Yeah, more power to him, except if you're the one who loses out. And I was. So I've got an issue with Mike Florio. But it doesn't keep me from saying I think he's a damn good writer. I think he's got good contacts. And I think for the most part, he does an outstanding job. But he does seem to have an issue with Howie Roseman. For some reason, he's always got Howie under the microscope, and he's always looking for something that the Eagles have done.
Now you're going to conspiracy. Now you got one conspiracy theorist. Now you're going down the conspiracy rabbit hole. I don't get that part. I don't think he's got.
All right, let me ask you a question, John. And some people are going, what the hell are Jody and John talking about?
Right,
but I think most people know exactly what the story is. He came up with a conspiracy of the Eagles tampering with Saquon Barkley. And the only other place I saw anyone do a follow-up with it yesterday was Crossing Broad. I didn't see anything about it on Sports Illustrated. I didn't see anything about it on CBS.
I'm going to write about it when I get off the air. That I haven't had time. So much stuff. I'm going to write about it. ESPN wrote about it. The Eagles have denied it because you're going to get the questions over it. Yeah, I mean, look. I'll for those who don't know, there was James Franklin had a press conference. I don't know what they're doing in Penn State. I'm not paying attention to college football, but he had a press
where's Cart when we need him? I'm sure he could quote verbatim with James
maybe they're
Franklin
doing some kind of spring work or whatever. I don't know. But he had a press conference, and you got to ask about Saquon Barkley, and he said Saquon, one of the pitches about for the Eagles to Saquon, how he was telling him, "Oh, come back, play in Pennsylvania near, your home," and blah blah blah. And all of a sudden, Mike Florio, being Mike Florio, said, "Hey, you're not allowed to do that." And he's 100% right. Executives like Howie Roseman are not permitted to talk to players. They have to talk to agents in the legal negotiation period. Now, my assumption is what happened is it's a tortured game of telephone, right? So Howie said that to Kim Bialy, Saquon's Barkley agent, Saquon's agent. She told Saquon what he said. And then Saquon said, "Hey, Howie said blah, blah, blah" to James Franklin. He's just talking off the cuff. Again, people act like these press conferences are in front of Congress where you got that. I mean, he's talking off the cuff. And so to me, it's probably a tortured game of telephone, so to speak, as a kid, when you're saying one person says it, and then the time by gets to the end of the line, it comes out differently. And Mike Florio, being Mike Florio and what he is jumping on well, you can't do that, but which he's 100% right. Now, I find this ironic because the Eagles, and I joked with Kevin Kincaid over at Crossing Broad, I joked, "Tampering for thee, but not for me." Just joking, because Eagles fans went nuts about Jonathan Gannon and all that stuff.
Right.
And we didn't get Big Fangio. And that was a launch in conspiracy in thousands of bedrooms and basements in the Delaware Valley. Oh, and by the way, the Greek god of defense couldn't have saved this unit last year. They were awful. Oof. Vic Fangio, Jim Johnson coming back.
The Greek god of defense?
No, I said the Greek god of defense, whoever you think that is.
Oh, whoever. I thought you were tying him to
could not have done anything different with this defense last year because of the personnel issues.
Agreed.
Nobody could have saved this. Vic Fangio, Jonathan Gannon, Jim Johnson, Jim Schwartz, not have saved this defense last year. But still to this day, because I get it all the time, 1 million people think that cost them, that phone call not only cost the Eagles the Super Bowl because Jonathan Gannon was so distracted. He could not properly prepare for the Super Bowl. He prepared for the first half. He couldn't somehow he prepared for that, but he couldn't prepare for the second half. And then on top of it, you would have had Vic Fangio, and he would have saved that defense last year. It's absurdity. Monty Ossenfort made a mistake. He self-reported it. The Eagles got some draft capital. Now, you move forward to this one as 1 million more conspiracies. The New York Giants don't seem to give a flip. So right off the bat, that's a division rival. So is there wink tampering in the NFL? Of course there is. Guys talk, guys text. They probably shouldn't. Is it out of the realm of possibility that Howie Roseman sent Saquon Barkley a text at some point? No. I guess, but he's been doing this for a long time. He's probably not going to do it during the negotiating period. He's not going to like Monty Ossenfort was a first-time GM who just got the job and didn't know an arcane rule. That's a lot different from how he's been doing the job since 1945, I think, at this point. And by the way, he's got John Ferrari, the best rules analyst guy in the business, as his assistant GM. So he knows the rules. Is it possible? Yes. It's not going to turn into anything. And you know why it's not going to turn into anything? Even if there was a wink thing, the Giants don't care. Same thing with Vic in Miami. They don't
Yeah,
care.
but the Giants didn't know until do you think the Giants had Saquon Barkley's phone tapped? How are they going to know?
Because
Florio brought it to everyone's attention yesterday. Have you seen John Mara go on record and go, I don't care?
no, but ESPN again reported the Eagles have denied it. The Giants have not inquired about it already.
It happened
Could they?
yesterday. Are we shaming the Giants for not immediately
I'm not
inquiring?
shaming. I'm saying I'm not shaming them at all. I'm saying they know it's not a big deal. That's not a shame. I'm trying to say it's not a big deal. I'm trying to say
it's not a big deal, John. It's either they're going to be found guilty and they're going to own draft compensation, or they're going to be found not guilty, and then it goes away.
Okay, well then they're going to be found not guilty, because even if they tampered, nobody cares. This happens all the time in the NFL.
You keep saying this. What do you mean nobody cares? Have the Giants said we don't care?
Here's you asked me to explain the situation. I'm trying to explain it the best I can. Every team in this league, as we talk about going back to Indianapolis, nobody wants to shine a light on this stuff. The NFL doesn't want a light shot. They've declined to. They've been asked. I asked Brian McCarthy. Maybe he'll answer later in the day. Maybe he won't. My guess is he won't. They don't want to shine it on everybody talking in Indianapolis. They don't want to go down this route. If the Giants do this, the Eagles might come back and say, well, this happened with this team, might happen with this team, and so on and so forth and so forth. So you don't have to believe me. You can wait. It just happened. You can believe in the conspiracy. You can go in the basement. You can go in the bedroom.
I'm
with
just
the rest
saying,
of the
John,
people.
you've declared it done, over and done with. Yeah, I'm going to wait. I'm not going to sit here and tell you, oh, I think the Eagles screwed up. I think Howie Roseman cheated.
Yes,
I think the Eagles are going to pay with draft picks. No, I'm not saying that, but I'm also saying it's not done yet. It's where the story came to light 18 hours ago.
Has anything happened with Vic Fangio in Miami?
No, not yet.
No, not yet. And you're right. I'm not saying there's not a possibility. The Giants are a division rival. Brandon Brown is their assistant GM who knows Howie Roseman. He used to work here. Maybe they have tremendous angst, and maybe they'll make a kerfuffle out of it. I'm saying and you use that word correctly, I'm saying it's going to turn into nothing. I'm willing to bet it's going to turn into nothing. Just like Vic Fangio leaving Miami has turned into nothing. Why? Not necessarily because there was no tampering, but because Miami, A, doesn't care. We're looking to get out of the contract. And B, again, the league as a whole doesn't want a light shined on this type of thing. The difference between Arizona, Monty Ossenfort, rookie GM, self-reported it. And at that point, you're almost saying like, Monty, what are you doing? Stop this. And then you got to remember how weird it was, Jody. The NFL didn't penalize Arizona. They didn't come down and say, you're losing. They negotiated with the Eagles.
True.
So they told these two teams, you know what, go off to the side, give them a little something, and get this the hell out of my office, is essentially what Roger Goodell said. Is there tampering in the NFL? Of course there is. And it's done by 32 teams all the time. They do things they shouldn't do. And the NFL doesn't want the biggest light shined on it. So I'm not saying something untoward. It's impossible something, although, again, the Eagles have denied it. I'm not saying something untoward could not have happened. I'm saying it will amount to nothing. That's what I'm saying.
And that's probably the way it's going to shake out. I agree. I don't think anything's going to come from it, but I'm not ready to give a declarative statement on the results of this at this point yet. The Giants have had very little time to talk about it. And if they think about it, they might go down the Monty Ossenfort road of, yeah, hey, can you look into this for us? And the conspiracy theorist, the Florio, is there'll be a digital record. So the NFL...
There will be unless they're using burner phones to talk to Saquon Barkley, which I think he put in his goopy story. Yeah. Come on. Come on.
I'm just saying there still could be further investigation. Will it lend itself to anything? Probably not. There's probably going to be no compensation here, and it's going to become a forgotten story. But Florio does live for this stuff. He's an attorney. He waits for something like this to happen, and I guarantee he was smiling as he was typing out the story yesterday because he seems to have it in for Howie Roseman, which I don't quite get.
Well, that part, and that is why does he have it in for Howie?
I don't
I'll
know.
go down your route. No, I'm saying why. I don't think he does have it in for Howie. I'm saying why do you think?
Have you seen some? He's had Howie a couple times on his TV show. Have you seen those interviews?
I saw one where he's going back and forth, and I know what you're talking about. I can't remember what it was about, but I mean, I have no problem with people pushing because Howie doesn't say anything. So,
but if you watch enough Pro Football Talk, I don't do. If Florio was like Mike Wallace and he treated every guest as if it was an inquisition, then I go, all right, that's Mike Florio. That's the way he does his job, the way he chooses to do a job. More power to him. He doesn't. He gets guys on, he glad hands them, he slaps them on the back. But when Howie gets on that show, he does. He treats them like it's a congressional hearing. And he does really kind of put the screws to him. And I'm not sure why.
That I don't watch enough Pro Football Talk to know his common personality or theme of how he handles people. Maybe he does. I don't think he does. I don't think he has it in for Howie Roseman. But maybe I don't think he's a Giants fan or Cowboys fan or Commanders fan. So I don't know why he would have it in for Howie.
That's why it sticks out like a sore thumb, John. To Florio's credit, he's pretty open-ended. He doesn't wear his rooting interests on his sleeve. He doesn't get guys on and glad hand them and treat them well, and others that he doesn't do that. But I'm telling you, Justin, I watch enough Pro Football Talk to be able to say he seems to be a lot more harsh in his interviews with Howie Roseman than he does with others. And I think he enjoyed being able to at least potentially put something out there that the Eagles were cheating. I'm with you. I don't think anything's going to happen, but I think we do need to let this story play itself out a little bit. All right, we got Mac and Mac guys here. Mike Gill, not yet in the waiting.
Yeah,
Where's Mike Gill?
I got a text Mike. He might have forgotten it was pushed back. You know how he's usually a Wednesday guy. So.
He's usually a Wednesday guy, and usually he's in by 20 minutes after the hour.
That's my conspiracy. He forgot.
You and I end up talking and holding Mike Gill, but he hasn't joined us yet. But we're gonna have faith that Mike Gill is going to respond to John McMullen's text, of which there'll be a digital record if there's an investigation.
I got to delete that. How do you wash your phone?
Yeah, this is John's usual phone. He doesn't have a burner to call Mike Gill on. So there will be a digital record of him reaching out to Mike Gill, and hopefully there's an appearance of Mike Gill coming back with us next here on Birds 365.
Imagine for a moment that you went to work today and when you came home, you were catastrophically injured. Your life and your family's life. That's what happened to union construction worker Mike Little.
I was scared of what the end was going to be, but to be 100% honest with you, I knew I was going to be all right just by talking with Brian. In my heart, I just knew everything was going to be all right.
Call the firm and find out why they say, "We got this." Call 215-458-2222.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Underdog Fantasy is the easiest place to play fantasy sports, and certainly the easiest when you're watching the NBA. And the NBA playoffs are almost here, and you can win money making picks. What are you waiting for? Sign up on UnderdogFantasy.com and use the promo code WIN. An Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN. Get ready for the NBA and get ready for the NBA playoffs. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN.
Hi everybody, my name's Jason Lombardi. I'm an inspector at DryTech. At DryTech we offer 3 major services, the first one being basement waterproofing. The second service we offer is foundation and structural repairs. And then the third service that we offer is mold remediation. If you feel you are having a waterproofing issue, give DryTech a call or check us out online.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
And the big story on Action News?
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
EAGLES. Eagles.
You got your Mac guys. Haven't heard from Mike Gill yet. Hopefully Mike jumps in. We usually have him on Wednesday. He had to do Thursday this week, but he has not jumped in yet.
Probably sleeping, I'm going to guess.
Could be sound asleep if that's the case. And we hope to get Mike Gill up here in a little bit. Dave Zangaro, NBC Sports Philadelphia, is going to join us next hour. A couple of things that I do want to touch on.
By the way, real quick, Jody, can I just, because ESPN did cover the story, and remember, not our buddy Tim McManus, not on, they got a cast of thousands to rely on. So they had Graziano in New York. So as of the Eagles denied it. The NFL declined to comment, and I myself checked with Brian McCarthy. They have declined to comment. They haven't talked about it. But Graziano and Jordan Rana, I should point out him as well. So again, they have a cast of thousands. Reported from the Giants side that they have not reached out to the league. Again, and it's early. You're right to point that out. It's still early in the process. They could wake up today and get angry and say, you know what, let's go screw with the Eagles. But as of right now, that's where it is.
Right. Here's where I would be impressed by either Jordan Raanan or Graziano. If they'd gotten a quote that said, General Manager Joe Schoen, not planning on filing a protest or asking a further negotiation, then I would go, all right, story's over. It's done. The fact that the Giants haven't said anything yet doesn't mean anything. It just means they haven't had a chance to discuss it internally or do the investigation they need or talk to Saquon's agent. Well, they just haven't. The story broke yesterday, so they haven't gotten to it yet. They're kind of still trying to land players too. They're kind of busy. This is a story that you can put aside and, yeah, we'll deal with that next week. So the fact that the Giants haven't come out and said, yeah, we think they cheated, it doesn't mean anything. So, again, story is
that's where we are, though. That's where we are.
As I said before, and let me repeat, to be determined. John and I can both have an opinion. It sounds to me like John's is much stronger. Nothing will happen. My opinion as of right now is probably nothing will happen. Yay or nay, which do you think? Are the Eagles going to get caught and have to pay with draft? No. If it's 50-50, I would say it's more no on the 50-50 side, but I'm not too 99-1 as it sounded to me like John was.
And also in bigger news, Mike Gill did forget, so hopefully he's jumping on here soon. Although,
right, so we're going to get Gill. All right, couple of things that we'll discuss with Gill, but I'll run by you first. One thing we do have to get straightened out because I've heard Eagle fans, I've taken calls on it, and I heard a member of the Eagle media say yesterday, hey, the Eagles weren't going to resign DeAndre Swift because they're going to get a draft pick in compensation for him anyway. No, they're not. They're not going to get a draft pick. Write it down right here, right now.
People really don't understand compensatory picks, man. It is
I'll
amazing.
give you the quick tutorial, Eagle fans. Compensatory picks are determined by comparison of what you lose via free agency, what you gain in free agency. The Eagles lost DeAndre Swift. They signed Saquon Barkley, who got more money, so that's not even going to be an equal compensation, but they'll play each other off. Oh, by the way, they signed Bryce off $51 million. They signed GJ, $30 million and change, whatever it works out to. And the other Eagle free agents of key note that they lost so far are, that's right, none. So unless Rashad Penny is going to sign with another team for $53 million.
Scott, yeah, he might.
Austin Scott's going to get a huge amount of. It's not happening. I know the Eagles, because of the way they did the whole roster construction last year and watched the free agents walk out the door, and they're getting 4 compensatory picks in this upcoming draft, a third, Javon Hargrave, 2 fifths and a 6th. That's going to be helpful this year. They're not getting any next year. They're not losing free agents of any magnitude, and they've already signed 3 big buck free agents in CJ, GJ, and Huff and Saquon Barkley. They're not getting free. They're not getting compensatory.
No, they're not. It's amazing. You know how many times that somebody signs like DeAndre right away? Well, the Eagles will take the compensatory. Like they think you get it. And I say it a million times every. It's part of how he's playing last year coming off the Super Bowl was he knew he was going to lose so many players.
Right.
He wanted the compensatory pick. So part of their plan was not to sign people. Also, they wanted to get the salary cap in order. That would count against the compensatory formula. Yeah, nobody gets it. They think somebody signs, you get a compensatory. It doesn't work that way. It does not work that way.
I felt the need to tweet that out yesterday to Eagle fans and one specific Eagle reporter who said, "Oh, they'll get a compensatory to pick for Swift." No, they're not.
Oh my God, who said that? Don't say that on the air. But tell me off the air.
Yeah,
that is bad.
It kind of was. That's why I felt the need to tweet about it yesterday afternoon. All right, there he is. Mike Gill, now Mr. Thursday here on Birds 365, and he did have enough time to pull a T-shirt on, and aren't we all thankful for that?
I forgot I switched days this week. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, well, no, I figured, or you were all tampering somewhere with somebody about something.
Yeah. What T-shirt you got on today, big guy?
Nothing great, just an old school Billabong, like it's 1995.
All right, Billabong.
What is Billabong again?
Yeah, it was an old surf brand. You know, the children of the shore. You'd see us wearing them all the time down here. You know, I don't know if they're wearing them up in the Philly area.
Nobody knows. I think it still exists, doesn't Billabong?
I think so. Yeah, it's not quite like you used to have like Billabong, Quicksilver, O'Neill. They were like the big surf brands back in like the. You know,
yeah, it still exists. So go. We're giving them a free.
I'm sorry if I disappointed the viewers that I ran out of colleges that I visited.
That's all right. No. Billabong is fine. And if you were an actual surfer dude, I'm finding that difficult to believe.
Yeah, back in the day, man. I mean, you know, everybody down here had a boogie. I wasn't a surfboard. I was a boogie board.
Now
that's kind of a big difference.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, now, I think we talked. You were at Pepperdine, weren't you? I think we talked about that before.
Me, no, I've never been to Pepperdine. And I don't have a Pepperdine T-shirt.
All right, well, that's where you should wear the Billabong because that's the best college campus in the country, right on the ocean.
I don't think I have to tell you. You don't need to go to the actual school to get the T-shirt. You can get everything on Amazon. You can order one today.
Well, that's true.
It'll be on your doorstep first thing tomorrow morning.
Since I'm a magnet guy, so anytime I visit a city, I get a magnet at the airport of that particular city. Gotcha. So I no longer have room.
I go beer koozie, Jody. Beer koozie.
I like those. I
have a whole drawer. One of our drawers in the kitchen. The whole thing. It's filled to the top with beer koozies of every campus and every
that's too much space for that.
It is.
I went to a shot glass phase when I went visiting. I'd get a shot glass from wherever I was traveling to, and I got way too many shot. Same thing. The back of one of the cabinets in my kitchen, it's got 47 shot glasses that never get used, and they're still sitting in there. All right, but we're going to use you, Mike Gill.
Let's roll.
The big signings, of course, Huff and Barkley and CJGJ coming back. Which of those three do you think has the biggest impact on the Eagles next year?
It's funny you asked because everybody would just, Barkley's the biggest name, obviously. I think Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is the guy they might know next. Huff is the least known, but he plays the position that I think the team values the most, right? That edge rusher spot is the guy that I think, when they signed him, I said, here's the hard part for him. Is he going to be as good as Reddick at his best? I mean, you're essentially asking the guy to replace what Hassan Reddick gave you. Now, he had one huge flash in the pan season. Is he a flash in the pan, or is he a guy that's on the rise? So I think Bryce Huff is the guy that they value that position the most. He's the least known of the three, probably, but probably the most important for the defense. I mean, obviously in the league today, pressure, edge rusher, that's where the Eagles like to draft. They're essentially saying, we're signing you in lieu of having to try to draft a guy or, maybe even give money to Hassan Reddick and bring him back. You might see Sweat and Reddick gone, and that puts a lot of pressure on this guy that he better be pretty darn good. So I would say that he's the guy. Now, Barkley with that money out of character to pay the running back, obviously, what kind of role do they give him? Are they now saying, you are the offense? You're the guy in this offense. That would then put him at the top. If you're changing your offensive philosophy, he almost becomes, the main guy on offense. Then he might be the guy. And then Chauncey Gardner-Johnson would probably be third on the list, but very important because, man, they could make a play on that defense last year. They looked old and slow. So all three guys could be number one, but I'd probably say Huff, Barkley, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson right now.
Should the Eagles change their offense? Should it be based on Saquon Barkley? And what does he have to do in Mike Gill's mind to justify the Eagles going out of the box and going away from the grain of what they typically do?
So should they is an interesting question. Teams that are good and are winning, they run the ball late because they have the lead. They're running the clock. That's always this question of, and everybody, I think a lot of people, maybe you and I, John, have talked about this. Do the Eagles look at the 49ers and say, they've got Ayuk, they've got Deebo Samuel, they've got George Kittle, and they've got McCaffrey, and he's the best player on that team. Why can't our best player also be the running back? And you've heard a lot of people kind of say, why did the Eagles do this? Well, you had Swift and other guys on the market that became available, like Mixon or Moss or Singletary or whoever you like, Pollard. And what we're hearing is the Eagles thought that Barkley was here and those guys were here. He's a generational type of running back for them, which would say, if I'm paying the guy and that's how I value him, he better be a big part of my offense. So, yeah, I think you might be seeing a little shift of the way the Eagles might use the running back. And that could be coming from, I don't know how much power the offensive coordinator has coming in, but did Roseman and the collective collaborative effort come together and say, if San Francisco is featuring this guy, and John, McCaffrey's the guy they wanted, are they saying this guy is a guy that we would have got taken if he was available when it was our turn to pick? Now, that year he got taken number 2, so that wasn't going to happen. But did they value him that high in that draft that they said, that's the guy we can change our offense for? We'll see.
Yeah.
But I would say for the money.
We did talk to our guy, Pat Leonard, who was at the forefront of the story. And he did say the Eagles were interested in him last year as well, hoping the Giants wouldn't tag him last year. So it's been a while. They've been, when he came out, I mean, everybody loved him as a player, as a talent, number 2 overall pick. The criticism of the Giants had to do with Dave Gettleman and the philosophy. It's interesting to me because even Pat, took a shot at Gettleman. Everybody takes shots at Gettleman, but everybody likes Saquon Barkley so much that they kind of give him a pass. Do you think that's fair? Or do you think if you're generational, and the Eagles seem to think he's generational, don't you have to overcome some of the hurdles? And he had a lot of hurdles. It's fair to point that out. That was a bad team, bad decisions all over the place.
How'd Christian McCaffrey lift those Panthers?
Well, that's the point I was trying to make with Pat yesterday.
I think
maybe
one of
it's
the points that we've heard about the Eagles in this move is, and the Giants. I forget. It might have been Chris Canty on the national ESPN feed that was saying, it's okay to take a running back that high if you're a team that kind of traded into that spot. Not
if you're ready to win. If you're ready to win. If
you're a team that's so bad, getting a running back's not going to change the complexity of your team. But if you're the team that has that one piece that you need still, and he kind of puts the Eagles in that category, this is a team that's a ready-made offense. I mean, you're already hearing Jason Kelce, like, it almost sounds like Kelce knew this was coming, right? Like, I knew this was happening, but I regretfully still had to make my decision. But for me,
probably tampering. Howie was probably tampering.
It sounds like that, right? Are we getting some of those reports out there? But for me, for the money you pay and the shift of philosophy, if that's the case, then Saquon Barkley has to be significantly better than what you had. And when I say significantly better, 1,100 yards is not going to get it done. I could have got 1,100 yards if I hand the ball to Boston Scott enough.
All right.
This guy's got to get me 1,500 yards.
Let me make one Saquon point and then ask you a Saquon question, Mike. Saquon Barkley is the number 2 pick. I still have no problem with it because what you need to do to evaluate whether it should have been the number 2 pick, how did those other Giants needed a quarterback at the time? How'd the other quarterbacks in that draft go? None of them played worth diddly squat.
That draft stunk.
Exactly. So did Saquon Barkley think? I don't think so. So to chastise the Giants for taking him at number 2, we're now 6 years after the fact. It wasn't that bad a pick. It was probably the right pick to make. It was a smart pick to make. Now, when you make that pick, you're assuming, which can get you in trouble when you assume that you'll turn around thereafter and get the other picks right. Like get an offensive line in front of him. Failure. Get a quarterback who can actually play. Failure. Barkley wasn't the problem. Everything else was the problem. The Giants just continued screwing things up. But because they took Saquon Barkley with the 2nd pick of the draft is not the reason that they screwed it up. There are many other things they screwed up worse than taking Saquon Barkley with the 2nd pick of the draft.
A good way. That's a good way to look at it is they got that piece. Everything after they tried to put together, they failed at doing.
But people, how do you take a running back with number 2 pick in the draft? By making the right pick would be the way you would do it?
The interesting thing, too, is the one year that the Giants were competent and made the playoffs, Barkley was outstanding. I mean, he had 1,300 yards. His best year was his rookie year, 90 catches in that offense, 1,300 yards. But his next best competent year was the year the Giants went to the playoffs. 2022. He had 1,300
but also Daniel
yards.
Jones was okay that year to the point
right, but
where
that should tell you if in that offense, when they had some competency, he's a 1,300-yard back. What could he be in this offense with a better quarterback and a better offensive line? But that team had no threat, none in the past game, and he got 1,300 yards. So you put him in this offense now with an offensive line and a couple of weapons and a quarterback that we all think is better than Daniel Jones. Are we starting to think about that too? I mean, no, right? Not yet. So then Saquon Barkley should be a significantly better player than he was in New York. So I don't have problem with that aspect of it at all. Not monetarily either. Here's the thing for me monetarily. This is why Roseman gets a lifetime pass, whether people like it or not. We've all worked at a radio station where the engineer is a guy that's a little prickly. No one wants to talk to the engineer. He's always an asshole. He's an asshole because he creates things that he's the only guy that can fix.
Yeah.
Because you can't ask anybody else.
It's always the one guy. There's one guy who can fix stuff.
Right.
It's only one guy.
Yes, he makes mistakes and he drafts guys that you're like, but he puts these things together in the way that I'm the only one that can fix it. Lori can't get rid of me because no one's coming in off the street figuring out how to get out of this mess, if there is even a mess. So he doesn't give the contract to Barkley without having the steps in his head of how to work around that contract. So I don't have a huge problem with the money. It just says to me, they're valuing that position more. Who gives a shit? They finally value a position that nobody else does.
I agree.
They still don't value linebacker, though.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Not yet, right.
Here was my question for the usage of Saquon Barkley. You said it, John said it. He's very good out of the backfield. Might be as good as any back in the league coming out of the backfield catching the football. The
Not
Eagles.
McCaffrey. I throw that in.
Yeah, McCaffrey, right. McCaffrey and Saquon. The Eagles, since Jalen Hurts took over as the starter, have not used the back out of the backfield much. Now, that goes back to Shane Steichen. You can't just lay it all at Brian Johnson's doorstep, which, I think Brian Johnson deserved to get fired. I think he did a lousy job last year. But this is over 2 offensive coordinators. So now we're on our third. Yeah, that Saquon is capable of doing it, but the Eagles haven't and Jalen Hurts hasn't. Why? What do you think is the reason? Just judging the stats, judging the production, that has not been even, a big part. It's a small part of the Eagles' overall offense. Why has that been the case? And do we have faith that they're going to just flip a switch? Oh, now we got Saquon. We'll throw it to the back, out of the backfield line. That's going to work that way.
That's a great question. It's because, is it because you got A.J. Brown as your first, your second, and it's not like these guys are sitting in their pocket going through progressions like it's a John Madden football game here, but if they were, the running back is going to be the fourth guy. And how many times do they get check all the way down to the fourth guy before he takes off and runs? Or now we didn't see it. So you're saying, well, he didn't run all that much last year. Well, was he being forced to throw, or was he forcing throws to guys like Brown and Smith more so? Because keep in mind, here's one of the problems with DeAndre Swift that I think is another genesis of this move. Picking up the blitz, they were horrible last year, especially late in the year. Well, people said like Swift isn't a part of the pass game. Well, that's because he can't block. They couldn't have him on the field because he couldn't protect in pass protection. Gainwell has to be out there so much because Swift can't block. So therefore, Swift's not even a part. And Gainwell, for whatever reason, he was a wide receiver in college. They moved him out there. They didn't throw him the ball either. Like the running back just completely.
That's what I mean. They had two. That to me, guys, the March-April talk, because I've heard it so many times in so many organizations with so many teams and so many offenses about getting specific guys in space that aren't receivers, manufactured touches type things. Nobody does it. Nobody's disciplined enough to do it. I've gotten to watch Percy Harvin take a look at some film of that guy when he got the football in his hands. Couldn't run a route to save his life. Cordero Patterson, I always say, best kick returner in NFL history. Could have been a phenomenal player. Couldn't run a route to save his life. Got to get him the ball. And they would do it at times. But the discipline it takes, there's only one guy, Kyle Shanahan, who has done it successfully. I hear it all the time. I remember here in Philadelphia, 21 Pony, Darren Sproles. They're going to get Darren Sproles and Donnell Pumphrey on the field at the same time. What are people going to do? These two jackrabbits out of the backfield, as soon as they got pads on. You know what? We're not doing that. Somebody's got to block somebody. So many times, Jalen Reagor. That's why he was brought here. He's going to stretch the field, Mike, vertically and horizontally. He's going to do it. We finally got a player, dare say, like Tyreek Hill. How laughable is that now?
Right.
How many times have we heard this? Now, when it comes to running back, again, I'm not talking about a screenplay. I'm not even talking about a bubble screen necessarily, although that's more of a manufactured touch. We're obviously handing the football off. But when people start talking about wheel routes, about matching them up against slot corners, guess what? Other than Christian McCaffrey, you put any running back, DeAndre Swift, Saquon Barkley, Go back to whoever LaDainian Tomlinson, maybe a little bit different. Marshall Faulk was different. Couple guys. It's a day off for an NFL slot corner if you're going to put running backs matching up with slot corners. Now, if you can get them matched up on a linebacker, yeah, all day. But, man, nobody does it.
Well, and that goes to the thought that the Eagles have that this player is different. You know, if you throw the ball out of the backfield to DeAndre Swift and you're the slot corner, or, you know, okay, I'll just come up and make the tackle on this guy. I don't want to go one-on-one and tackle Saquon Barkley. There's a big difference in trying to make a tackle on that guy than there is DeAndre Swift. And, you know, that's one of the problems with Swift. Like, this is, I think, the Eagles' organizational thinking is that Swift, to me, is a guy that the fans get excited about because he's the guy who runs the 4.3 40 at the combine. And you're like, he just moved up draft boards. He can run. And when he gets a hole that's the size of the Red Sea parting, he looks like, why don't we give this guy more? But I never felt Swift had the feel of a running back. He just, you hand the ball and he shoots. Barkley is a running back. He shifts gears. He changes pace. He waits. He's patient. He finds the hole. He waits and waits for the blocks and things to develop. He, to me, has the intuition and the feel where these other guys, they're fast, and you give them a hole, and they can get through it, and they look exciting at times. And that kind of is part of the reason why some of these guys in the pass game, they just kind of float out in the pass. Everyone's covered. The quarterback is inexperienced, and he just kind of dumps it off to the guy because he catches it. He's got a lot of speed. So that's why I think a lot of these backs catch a lot of balls. They play with quarterbacks who are or offenses that aren't really all that good, and the quarterback's not all that good, and he just checks down and panics really fast. And Hurts hasn't really done a lot of that. This offense has been pretty good. Good offenses generally don't have the running back catching a lot of passes is the thing. Unless
John just gave you one.
Well, I said unless you're like John said,
the greatest
you got Colin Shanahan manufacturing touches for that guy.
It can be done. Ask Marshall Faulk. Ask Christian McCaffrey. So, but
Marshall Faulk's a little different time frame, but yes.
Well,
very good.
Agreed. It's been a while ago, but it can be done, and it could be done. Last year, Christian McCaffrey was almost MVP of the league, and he's the guy catching the ball out of the backfield. So it can be done, and I have more concerns about Jalen's ability to do that. I'm not down on Jalen, but that aspect of his game, he couldn't throw it to the back when he was almost the MVP 2 years ago. So not going to make an overall statement on Hurts, but I do have a question about that aspect of his game. All right. The other two big signings, one's a easy yes-no question. The other one you got to give me your opinion on. First yes-no question. I'm setting the CJGJ interception over-under number for next year at 5.5. You going over or under?
I probably should say under, just because, it's hard to ask a guy to keep getting 6 interceptions every single year. I know this year he didn't get that many interceptions, but he only played 4 games, and right. I think he still had 2 interceptions in the 4 games that he played. But that's a lot. Well, I know the kid in Dallas got hurt, so it's like, how many did he have from one year to the next? Diggs. So it's hard to see a guy get
the other kid in Dallas stepped in. I think
Deron Bland,
5 that he took to the house. Pick 6s.
Yeah. And how many? If I were to set the over under for 5 for him, would you say he's going to do that again? Of course not.
No, of course
pick
not.
6s? No, that'll never happen again.
No, well, just 5. Just that he gets 5 interceptions.
I think
crazy.
I would go the under, though. To Mike's point, if I'm betting. I'm going to play the odds. I would go because you think people stop throwing at him and stuff like that.
It's just hard.
So you think he's going to get 4?
Well, you got. By the way, a lot of it depends
you want to go right up against the line, go 5. If he gets 5, is he worth $11 million a year?
Yes.
Okay.
You had 9 interceptions last year as a team, or 9 turnovers. He has 9 interceptions in the last 2 years himself. He's a playmaking guy that this team just obviously lacked big time last year. When they brought Byard in here, he was I don't want to say that, I don't know. Maybe he was a step slower. Maybe it was his third defense in 6 weeks when he got here. He was in Tennessee. Then he comes here. Then they switched coordinators on him. There might have been a little confusion going around on his head, what he was supposed to do. But he couldn't make a play last year. I mean, it was evident over the last 6 weeks of the season. If you watched an aerial cam of this team, you would see a team that couldn't run. They were just slow. They just got outrun by everybody on the field. The safeties just stuck in cement back there. The linebackers, no athleticism. CJ Gardner-Johnson is a playmaker. I can't guarantee 6 interceptions again, but certainly a guy who's around the ball and will be in position or have an opportunity. You didn't have an opportunity to get 6 interceptions. Those guys couldn't get around anybody.
Yeah. And I think, it's kind of to your point about, there's some randomness, which we've talked about in the past about turnovers. And Nick, we would joke at the time when they were turning it over and everything was great and the snowball was going down the hill. I would mention that there's a random, and no, we practice it. Come on. But when the ball's in the air, this guy can make a play on it.
Yeah.
And he's proven it pretty consistently. So when the opportunity is there,
that's the
so
thing.
it's more esoteric, but they needed his presence and they really missed his presence. And that's why, by the way, CJ had to apologize. The Eagles essentially had to give the Donovan McNabb financial apology. You know what? Yeah, we missed you. Let's come back.
And I have no problem. That's a weird thing to me is that, well, why did they just sign him last year? Okay, they made a mistake. Guess what? They've admitted they made a mistake, and I have no problem with that.
And by the way, the Eagles offered him a multi-year contract. I don't know what it was because he had
they lowballed him
back and forth.
The heck with you, and I'll leave. And then he got lousy deal someplace else.
Yeah,
and then maybe he said, you know what? Maybe my value isn't what I thought it was. The Eagles bring him back. Guess what? I have no problem with them maybe sticking their tail between their legs. And you might say there's better options out there. I don't know. Maybe people like Simmons better. Fangio knew him, blah, 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 blah. And that could still possibly happen, I guess. I don't know. But, we were talking about this, John, I think you and I, but I've heard some national people say, the Eagles are giving me dream team vibes. They're just going out and getting guys. That's why I like the Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. This isn't a dream team thing. This is, hey, we had this guy here. Everybody knows him. We know what he's all about. We know what kind of player he is. We're not bringing in some guy who may not mesh with the locker room. They obviously know who this guy is. So there is continuity here. So in an offseason where you're having a lot of change, you're bringing in a new player, but who's already been here and knows everybody.
Speaking of dream team vibes, I need your response to this. Huff equals Babin. Do you buy it?
I see where you're going with that. Yeah, he's a one-trick pony. Not very good against the run. Much more plays the part than the other guy. I mean, he's a bigger guy, lankier guy. I don't know what to think of him. He just came out of nowhere last year. Now, if you watch the highlight tapes they send out, you're getting the highlights, the best of his best.
Yeah, he looks good on the highlights.
Right? He looks outstanding. Good. You get shooting out of a cannon here. He's a young guy. Right. I think he's the key to a lot of this. Again, like Hassan Reddick came in here 2 years ago when they signed him, and it was like, I've been talking about this a lot, and I don't know that a lot of people agree with me, but the parallels for me, they went down to Tampa 2 years ago and got blasted, and they said, all right, we were a playoff team, but to get to that next level, there's a big difference. They went out and got Hassan Reddick, A.J. Brown, James Bradbury. I mean, they made moves and said, we can't come back the same. Well, what did they do this year? They did the same thing. They went out and got Huff, Barkley, and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. 3 players at essentially the same positions. They got a skill player on offense that year and the year. So they said, look, we weren't good enough. Tampa kicked our butt. We were a playoff team. How do we go here? And Huff, at that time when they got Reddick, I don't think anybody thought he was going to get 18 sacks.
No.
Nobody.
19
so
I'll set
the Huff number at 17 and a half. You're going
No
under
way.
or over sacks this year.
Come on.
I'm going
You just
under.
said nobody expected Son Reddick
know.
getting
And I would have went under then. If
I
you
would
would
have
have
gone
told
under.
me.
I don't know that anybody thought Hassan Reddick was getting 10 sacks. Now, I thought they said, wow, this guy's pretty
Brody
good.
McDonald did.
Okay.
I love the Hassan Reddick. Sorry. I begged the Eagles to sign him the year before when he signed the 1-year make-good deal with Carolina to join his old coach, Coach Rule. I was on the Hassan Reddick train before anybody else.
I think one of the reasons was, okay, he's in Arizona. He has double-digit sacks. They let him go. He goes to Carolina. He does even better, and they didn't care to really bring him back all that much.
Because they
and the
ran
Eagles got
off.
him.
They fired the coach who wanted him there.
And
we're going to hold
Eagles
Carolina to a
him.
standard. We're going to hold that against Huff because Carolina said, "Yeah,
no. I'm talking about
Carolina's
the
been a dumpster fire for years."
No, I'm talking about the expectations for Reddick. So then he has a good year in Arizona. They let him go. He has a better year in Carolina, and then he signs kind of a under market value. It turns out to be an under market value deal for him.
Turns out to be key, right?
Yeah, but
I guarantee you, Mike Gill didn't say, "Ooh, under market value for Hassan Reddick." Good signing by the Eagles.
I mean, there are very few people. If you set the number at 15, there are very few people in this league I will take the over on as pass rushers.
Yeah,
15 sacks. There's a couple guys if they're healthy.
You might think they could get to 15.
Yeah, TJ Watt
to get 16.
No, I mean, if you're playing the odds,
guy in the league, you're starting off saying, I know he's getting 16.
I know TJ Watt's getting 15 if he's healthy. For there are a couple guys I know you're betting on health because
Garrett
anybody gets hurt.
Is the best pass rusher in the league. I'll take him over
Nick Bosa. I'll take Nick Bosa. I'll take Miles. Very few. That's probably it. TJ, Nick Bosa, Myles Garrett. That's probably it. Everybody else, I'll take the under. But yeah, I mean, I'm just playing the odds there. So I don't think it was, disrespectful to Hassan Reddick. Hassan outperformed his contract. He had 19.5, I believe, if you go through the Super Bowl.
Right.
So he had a tremendous season. And that's why I said, Hassan Reddick, man, hold in, baby. I advocated that at the time when he showed up with the groin injury. I thought he was holding in. He never had more leverage than that moment coming off that season. And to his credit, he was a professional and he played through it. But now we're the situation. He's going to get paid somewhere, whether it's here or not. He's going to get upwards of 20 million plus. So I'm not too worried about him financially, but it'd be a shame if the Eagles, because it seems like, and last one, because I know you hopped on late, at Mike Gill Show, 97.3 ESPN South Jersey, every day 2 to 6, the Sports Bash. It seems like Vic Fangio, at least on the surface, would rather have those undersized guys he can drop. And I know that's going to anger Eagles fans because they hate when any pass rusher drops. If you have Reddick and Huff on the same defense and they're dropping 7 to 10 times a game, how angry do people become? Because it looks like Josh Sweat's the odd man out, to be honest.
Yeah, that's what it appears. And it's interesting because I guess that means they will rework the Reddick deal to try to change that cap number. And Sweat would be the guy. I guess the question on that is, do they think they can get more for Sweat?
It seems like they're coming to and there's talk they might even release Josh Sweat at some point if they have to. So it's not trending in a positive.
Elliott asked that because Sweat is the younger player at a better. I mean, he doesn't get paid as much as Reddick. So could you say, hey, this guy's still a?
I'm stunned that they have gone this route with Josh Sweat. I am. I'm stunned. I think he's a good player. Didn't have a great season last year, but I think he's a really good player. Obviously, nobody played well down the stretch. He didn't play well. Haas didn't play well. Nobody played well. Jalen Carter didn't play well down the stretch. Nobody did. So I'm surprised. And all I can come to is he wants a different style on the edge. That's the only thing I keep coming back to. Could it be something else?
No, and the fact that they would keep Reddick and Huff, I mean, because they seem to be, similar type of guys. Both not good against the run. I mean, what are you going to look like against the run with those
especially
two
with
guys
no linebackers? You got to go hunting for a linebacker
and no linebackers, right? Add that all in together, and you've got two edge rushers who don't have a lot of interest against the run, and two linebackers currently. Well, you only have one linebacker currently. The other one's not even. You only have one line. Well, Vaughn, but he's not really he would be more of an edge rusher.
Yes.
Well, they have Ben Van Sumeren. So right now it would be Nakobe Dean. If they had to strap up and play on Sunday, Mike Gill, it would be Nakobe Dean if he's healthy, if he's ready to go, which I haven't seen him in a while. So, and Ben Van Sumeren. Luckily, they don't have to play this weekend.
Hey, TJ Edwards was once an undrafted gem.
Yeah. Well, and they let him walk out the building for some reason.
They messed that one up right, left, and center. Mike Gill, a pleasure. I appreciate your Surfer Boy shirt. Thank you very much for hopping on. We got
Billabong. One last plug for Billabong.
Yeah, you're not getting a surfboard out of it. Well, a nice try. Norris Gill. But thank you, Mike Gill.
I'll be in Clearwater next week, Jody, so you won't see
really?
me.
You're down for the last week?
I am. I'm going Tuesday to Tuesday. I'll be at the last two games.
Root my boy Rojas in for a couple of hits because he's down to about $1.25. And those who said he's going to start the year in AAA, yeah, they might be getting that right. I said he's going to be their opening day center fielder. He needs to string together a couple of 2-base hit days to put that talk to rest. All right, Mike Gill, thank you. That's Mike Gill, 97.3 ESPN. The Sports Bash down the shore. All right, McMullen, McDonald coming back. Zangaro to join us in less than 15 minutes. Don't go anywhere. Oh, and let me tell you about a way to get an outstanding savings on your insurance, guys. Birds fan, here's your chance to save up to 40% on your car insurance from one of JAKIB Sports' great partners. Here's what you need to do. Call one of the two managing general partners, either Jim or Fran, and tell them you are a friend of JAKIB Sports and Birds 365.
My name is Fran Salerno. I'm a managing director here at Del Valle Insurance Group. Been in the business for over 36 years, saving people money on their insurance needs. Give us a call. Let us help you custom design an insurance plan that meets both your needs and budget.
Imagine for a moment that you went to work today and when you came home, you were catastrophically injured. Your life and your family's life. That's what happened to union construction worker Mike Little.
I was scared of what the end was going to be, but to be 100% honest with you, I knew I was going to be all right just by talking with Brian. In my heart, I just knew everything was going to be all right.
Call the firm and find out why they say, "We got this." Call 215-458-2222.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Underdog Fantasy is the easiest place to play fantasy sports, and certainly the easiest when you're watching the NBA. And the NBA playoffs are almost here, and you can win money making picks. What are you waiting for? Sign up on UnderdogFantasy.com and use the promo code WIN. An Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN. Get ready for the NBA and get ready for the NBA playoffs. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN.
Hi everybody, my name's Jason Lombardi. I'm an inspector at DryTech. At DryTech we offer three major services, the first one being basement waterproofing. The second service we offer is foundation and structural repairs. And then the third service that we offer is mold remediation. If you feel you are having a waterproofing issue, give DryTech a call or check us out online.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
And the big story on Action News.
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
EAGLES. Eagles.
Mac here with you on Birds 365. We appreciate everybody streaming in. Last couple days been pretty darn busy with all the Eagle moves, so a whole bunch of you have checked in. Thank you for doing so. While you're at it, you can hit the like button. If you're not here every single day, we've got some guys who are on the stream every single day. Appreciate you guys greatly. And we got to have a whole bunch of newbies that are not saying anything, just streaming in for the content. Thank you for doing so. Hit the like button on the way out today. All right, come on, help your boys out. Give Mac a little love. All right, two things before we get Zangaro up here. If you're just being a fanboy, Eagle fans, good on you. Appreciate it. Understand that's what fans do. But those who are overstating and or getting their hopes up, that Jason Kelce went on his New Heights podcast yesterday and was pretty emphatic about how good a team the Eagles are going to be this upcoming year and how excited he is for it as a Philadelphian. As a fan, good on Jason. If you think that means he's going to rethink things and change his mind and come back in and be part of the Eagles run back to the Super Bowl in 2024, not happening. He has made his decision. He is not going to double back. I'd put it at 99%. You always save that 1%, right, Johnny Mac, the safe face?
Yeah, you should. I didn't do that with tampering, but you should always do that. 99.
I'm at 99% sure that Jason Kelce is not coming. If you're clinging to that 1%, that's fine. Just don't make the 1% become 51%. Oh, I think it's going to happen. It's not going to happen. No, very unlikely, highly unlikely that Jason's going to turn his mind around. And which reminds me from yesterday, and this just dawned on me. Fletcher Cox, I guess, hopped on the Rich Eisen show. He hasn't had any formal conversations with Philly media or stepped in front of camera or whatever, but he hopped on the Rich Eisen show, and he did say not only is he not changing his mind in the short term, he's also not changing his mind at midseason. One of my favorite Johnny Mac-isms, the mercenary market. No, he's not doing that. He's not week 8 going to be receiving calls and going, you got 2 weeks to get in shape and then help us for the last 5-6 weeks of the season. It's become a thing in the NFL. And the way John describes it is right on point. Don't expect that to be Fletcher Cox for the Philadelphia Eagles or anybody else. I'm believing both he and Jason Kelce. When they say they're out, they're out. And I believe Fletcher Cox is out. I believe he's going to get on with the rest of his life. At some point, I think Kelce's probably here. When I say here, I mean Philadelphia for the rest of his life. Fletcher Cox is moving to Texas. He's already got a ranch down there. He wants to be a cowboy at some stage in his life. He's going to get that going now. He's not going to be in the weight room working out.
Unfortunately, they both of them have a lot of outside interests. And I think when you do have that and you have that plan in your head, it's easier to turn the page than a lot of guys. Let's be honest. A lot of guys leave before they want to leave because they're forced to leave and they don't have, Kelce and Fletch have all these outside interests. And in the case of Jason, I would think it would, early, if you would have told me, I would have said, well, Fletch, because he's younger. I think he's got plenty left in the tank. He's at least thought about going other places in the past. Always came back to Philadelphia. And I think as it drew later, he didn't want to end up anywhere else. So earlier in the process, I would have said Fletcher would be the more likely one. Now I would lean slightly towards Kelce, but only Kelce And by the way, I don't want to get people's hopes up. I'm talking about 99.9% and 99.7%. Only because, if say Cam Jurgens, if this team is like 14-2 and Cam Jurgens gets hurt, that's probably too late. But they're dominating 10-1, something like that.
10. Oh, did you really have to go 10-1, John?
Well,
they were 10-1 this year. How'd that work out?
Good point. If they're yeah, I guess that's a very good point. I didn't do that on purpose.
I didn't think you did. I just wanted to point it out.
99.7, and that's why I say 90. But he's already, he's jumping through flaming tables. He's, having fun. He's drinking. He's taking his shirt off. He's jumping. Yeah, I don't think he's going to keep himself in playing shape. So I don't think that's going to happen either. Yeah, he's just excited as an Eagles fan. Obviously, he's going to root for his guys. And like a lot of people are excited. I get why people are excited about Saquon Barkley. I have more questions than most, but that's my job to have more. I'm not going to sit here and go, oh, this is no problems here. 1,000%, everything's. Some people like that. I can't do that.
Well, I'll go one place that I got a problem with an Eagle decision that was made yesterday. And again, closer to nitpick than, oh my God, they screwed up. The Eagles, we know they haven't gotten into the linebacker market yet, which we're both questioning and wondering, and how it's going to shake out.
They're hunting. They
can be hunting all Josina Anderson wants to say. Haven't bagged anything yet. And they did lose their backup quarterback. Not that we're going to throw a pity party for Marcus Mariota, who I thought was a good signing last year and was terrible in camp and not good in the preseason games. And he played only when Jalen Hurts missed a couple of series. Not like I'm bemoaning the fact that Marcus Mariota won't be back, but somebody's got to be their backup quarterback this year. And if you're ready to go.
I'm glad you went down this route. Sorry. Go ahead, Jody. But it's not going to be Tanner McKee, but go ahead.
If it's not going to be Tanner McKee, then I think they missed a legitimate guy yesterday that they could have gotten. I said it last week on WIP. I'm pretty sure I said it here on Birds 365. Mason Rudolph was sitting out there. And he after years of being the backup in Pittsburgh, and getting a chance to play because Roethlisberger would get hurt. And he actually disappointed me. I thought he had a chance to win that job. When he got picked in the third round, I thought he was going to be the heir apparent to Ben Roethlisberger, and he just didn't get the job. He wasn't awful, but he never stamped himself as the guy in Pittsburgh, and that's why they drafted Kenny Pickett. But this year, Pickett gets hurt late, and he goes in and wins 3 games for them and gets them into the postseason when it looked like the Tomlin thing had a chance to go by the board, never has a losing record. Oh, shoot, Mason Rudolph's coming in. They're going to have a losing record. Wrong. He wins games. He gets them into the playoffs, and he signed a 1-year deal with Tennessee for under $4 million. Now, they paid Mariota $5 last year, so you'd actually get a savings at the backup quarterback position. I'll go on record right now and tell you I think he'll start more games than Will Levis this year. I think he'll end up being the Tennessee starting quarterback half the season or more.
That's not a good thing for Tennessee, by the way.
It might not be, but if the Eagles had a chance to, by going back to the same 5 they spent on Marcus Mariota, to get a guy who can start in the league as compared to right now to TBD, yeah, I think they missed out on.
As they say, well, it's always about the player. You like the player. I hadn't heard any interest from the Eagles on Mason Rudolph, but our buddy Rob Motti, who obviously is very plugged in, before agreeing to a deal with the Colts, Joe Flacco had an offer from the Eagles to be the backup quarterback. Now, obviously, Joe was here for a short time. With Shane Steichen, so it makes some sense. He's going to Indianapolis. Had a tremendous, after coming off the couch, he did some wonderful, stinking things for Cleveland. He can still play. But the most important part of that is not whether they got him, whether they should have got him, whether they should have gotten Mason Rudolph, but it does indicate that they're looking for a veteran backup quarterback. So that, to me, is the most important part of it, is Tanner McKee ain't going to be the backup.
Right. But the backup quarterback market, like everything else, is shrinking fast. You can say, okay, we need a backup quarterback. We're going to get a veteran backup quarterback. Who?
The Eagles are hunting.
They're hunting. Hunting doesn't impress me. Bagging prey impresses me. Just hunting doesn't quite get the job
Well,
done.
remember, if you go back to Joe Flacco the first time here, the Eagles traded him back to the Jets late in the process to make room for Gardner Minshew, because they traded for Gardner Minshew. So it might be that route. It might be a trade. But I think it's a clear indication. Again, the most important part of that news, that little tidbit, is that they're looking for a veteran quarterback, and it's probably not going to be Tanner McKee as the backup quarterback for the
We'll
Eagles.
run that and a whole bunch of other things by our next guest. Our guy Dave Zangaro from NBC Sports Philadelphia is going to jump in here on Birds 365.
Imagine for a moment that you went to work today and when you came home, you were catastrophically injured. Your life and your family's life. That's what happened to union construction worker Mike Little.
I was scared of what the end was going to be, but to be 100% honest with you, I knew I was going to be all right just by talking with Brian. In my heart, I just knew everything was going to be all right.
Call the firm and find out why they say, "We got this." Call 215-458-2222.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on three. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Underdog Fantasy is the easiest place to play fantasy sports, and certainly the easiest when you're watching the NBA. And the NBA playoffs are almost here, and you can win money making picks. What are you waiting for? Sign up on UnderdogFantasy.com and use the promo code WIN. An Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN. Get ready for the NBA and get ready for the NBA playoffs. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN.
Hi everybody, my name's Jason Lombardi. I'm an inspector at DryTech. At DryTech we offer three major services, the first one being basement waterproofing. The second service we offer is foundation and structural repairs. And then the third service that we offer is mold remediation. If you feel you are having a waterproofing issue, give DryTech a call or check us out online.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
For the big story on Action News,
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
EAGLES. Eagles.
You got McMullen and McDonald here with you on Birds 365. We have Dave Zangaro from NBC Sports Philadelphia, who, as much as I love Dave, I'm getting tired of seeing him. He's on TV all the time. Damn, during this rush of free agency, every time, oh, there's Dave Zangaro. And we're glad to have him on our TV show, too, here as well. Dave, I've asked everyone who's come on with us the last couple of days, of the three big signings, Huff, Barkley, CJ, GJ, which one will be most impactful on the upcoming season of the Eagles?
Oh, that's a good question. I think I'll go with CJ Gardner-Johnson because that was the area where they really needed to improve the most, in my estimation, was their defense, but specifically the secondary. They need some playmakers back there. And look, I don't think CJ is a Pro Bowl safety, but he's a playmaker. He can make some things happen, and they just need that so bad. I mean, last year was really tough to watch that secondary. I mean, no one was making any plays. So if he makes a few, I think that'll really change that defense.
Yeah, I think you can make an argument for all three, Dave, depending on which route you want to go. But I'm dying to ask you this question, and obviously the biggest name is Saquon Barkley, because you're one of those guys that practice every day, and I've been to practice too many times over the years, and I'm way too old. And anytime, Dave, I hear somebody talk about getting a player in space in March and April, I cringe. I think about Donnell Humphrey and Darren Sproles and 21 Pony. I think about Jalen Reagor stretching the field vertically and horizontally. I think about DeAndre Swift on wheel routes, and it never comes to fruition unless your coach is Kyle Shanahan. Nobody has the discipline to do it. Nobody sticks with it. They might script it a little bit if they have a really good player, and then they forget about it. Your thoughts when you hear getting a player in space, manufacturing things?
It can work. Like we've seen it here a little bit when Sproles was here and he was under Doug Peterson. Like there were times we'd see him on a wheel route, and those were big plays. And the screen game back then worked. You know, if you consider the screen game a part of getting a player in space, then yeah, like I think it can work without all the Shanahan stuff that you brought up. I think like those are ways to do it. I think that's the big one of the bigger questions about Barkley to me is like we know how good of a receiver he can be. It's just a matter of whether or not they work to get him the football. I think they have to. Like I don't think you can maximize him as a player if you're not throwing him the ball. And the interesting thing here is like DeAndre Swift, a pretty good pass catching running back, and the Eagles didn't throw to him very much. And I think a lot of this is like a lot of the balls that get thrown to running backs are dump offs, right? Yeah. And when you have a quarterback like Jalen Hurts, if there's a dump off, he'll just run it for a first down. So it kind of eliminates.
I think he should because
he should. Yeah, it's easier. It's a higher percentage play than a pass. But the interesting thing with Saquon, and I'm really curious to see how Kellen Moore uses him, is because Saquon could play receiver. He's a vertical threat, like a legit vertical threat as a running back, and that's rare. Like you don't see that a ton. I don't know if they're going to use it. Like that's kind of where we get back to the question about these two offenses meshing. I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't know the influence of each guy, and until we know that, like I don't know how exactly they're going to use Saquon, but they better throw him the ball because if not, I mean, I don't think they're going to maximize his value.
All right. If we don't want to project into the future because we just don't know, you're right. It's the future. Let's look at the past instead. Since Jalen Hurts took over as the quarterback of the Eagles, they've not been good throwing the ball to a back out of the backfield. That's Shane Steichen. That's Brian Johnson. Two different coordinators. You can't just say, well, it's the offense coordinator. Two different guys. And it's Sirianni's offense. So, yeah, he's got to take a little of the blame. But how much of it falls at the feet of the quarterback? Because that's one thing that scares me. I think either A, he's just not good at it, or B, he don't want to be bothered doing it. And when it's read number 3, he makes sure he throws, forcing the ball to read number 1 or read number 2. He never gets to the back as the third read. Why should we have faith that Jalen Hurts will be better at it this year just because Saquon Barkley's in the backfield?
Yeah, look, I don't know what's going to happen either, but you know, I think we've seen Jalen trust some targets more than others, and I think Saquon is the type of player who could earn his trust. I think, you know, when he's in the pocket looking for someone to pass to, and he sees Zach Pascal, he's going, "Oh, I'm not doing that." I don't know why.
Zach Pascal, but he was a hell of a blocker, just like Saquon.
But like if you see Saquon Barkley, maybe the bell goes off. Yeah, that guy is a playmaker. I can get him the football. I think that's the hope. right? Like, because he hasn't thrown to the backs a bunch, but he also hasn't had a guy like Saquon with this type of talent. So, yeah, that's a big part of this. It's tough to kind of break down, well, why haven't they thrown to the backs? Is it just because this is the offense? Is it because a lot of those plays are, like I mentioned, kind of dump offs, or is it because the quarterback doesn't want to? I think we'll find out some of those answers pretty soon.
Yeah.
Because DeAndre, I mean, let's be honest, DeAndre was a proven receiver out of the backfield in Detroit. He had 62 catches. Saquon Barkley hasn't had 62 since his rookie year. And I believe he missed 4 games. He missed 4 games each year in Detroit. So that's 62 in, at the time, it might have been 16 games. So 13 games, whatever. You get my point. He caught the football a lot. So he was a proven commodity. That wasn't a great team, but you knew we can catch the football. Now, is he as dynamic? No, he's not as dynamic. So that concerns me a little bit. And then just the touches, Dave. Typically, and this is a larger question about the shift in philosophy, the sea change. When did it become real for you, Dave Zangaro, that the Eagles were going after a running back and willing to pay him this money? And then a running back who's had 1,500 touches, with a lot of them on the MetLife turf, which just destroys bodies. As you know, you talk to so many players about that. Is that surprising?
I like you said that, like I tore my ACL. As you know, that MetLife.
Well, yeah. Well, you know about the lightning at MetLife Stadium, but not the ACL.
Look, I think the touches, the usage, that's a legitimate concern, because we've seen players drop off after that type of workload. I don't think there's any mistake about that. That's where the Eagles pro personnel department has to try to just watch him and see how much juice they think he has left, and that's an inexact science. So there's definite risk involved with the Saquon move, no doubt about it. I mean, I think it's part of the reason they haven't been in on running backs before, is because there's this drop off. In terms of when I thought it was legit, yeah, there was so much smoke around it that eventually, like, I guess they're really going to do this. But even knowing all that, it's still a little surprising to hear that they signed Saquon Barkley. Like, it's still, it's odd to me still, but like then you saw, I think what really kind of tipped the scales a little bit is you saw those deals to DeAndre Swift and Tony Pollard at $8 million per season. And I'm guessing the justification from the Eagles is going to be, well, why would we pay those guys $8 million a year and we can have one of the best running backs in the league for $12 million a year? Like, would you rather pay Saquon $12 a year or Tony Pollard $8 a year? Yeah, I kind of get it from that perspective. And I do think the weaker running back class had a lot to do with this market.
Yeah, the draft. Yeah, bad draft class. Yeah,
in the draft. Yeah, I think it had a lot to do with this, the market and free agency, because it's a lot higher than I thought it would be for some of those. You know, like DeAndre Swift's a good player. Is he an $8 million per year player at that position? I don't think so. So I kind of understand the Eagles' thought process there, but yeah, there's definite risk.
Dave, last year, the Eagles, when the season was over and done with, ended up the 9th best team in the NFL defensively against the run, which is not bad. If you're in the top 10, that's not bad. About midway through the season, they were the number 1 team in the NFL against the run, and they dropped precipitously over the second half of the season down to number 9. What have they done to improve that other than bring in Vic Fangio?
Yeah, I mean, they haven't done much. You know, they lost Fletcher Cox, who was their most consistent defensive lineman last year, which is a problem. I have a tough time looking back at the second half of last season and evaluating almost anything, especially on defense. And I don't want to give excuses. The players didn't play well, but man, it was a mess. Like, changing coordinators and this just defense that didn't make any sense. No one knew what they were doing. It's honestly, the evaluation process, like for the team even, has to be just a miserable experience this year, because I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you separate all those elements and like the Matt Patricia of it all. Like, how do you do that? It's a tricky thing. You're right, though. I mean, they haven't added enough on defense. I think linebacker is a glaring need right now. And I'll be honest with you, the linebacker market this offseason has been way higher than I expected, probably higher than the Eagles expected. And that's probably why they haven't signed one yet. But the top names are gone. I mean, you're left with, the cupboard's a little bare in free agency. They might get creative.
Left with the Zach Cunninghams of the world. We might as well bring Zach back. Howie was raving about him. Why not?
He was setting us all up for this.
Yeah.
Maybe a trade is possible. We've seen before when they kind of get priced out of a market. We saw it with cornerback a few years ago. They got priced out of the cornerback market, and then they got creative. They traded for Slay. Maybe something like that could happen. Because some of the linebacker contracts, we knew Patrick Queen was going to get paid, but the Kenneth Murray contract, am I missing?
Frankie Louvu, I thought would be too expensive, but I settled on guys like Al Shire,
and I liked him. I thought he'd be a good
Yeah.
fit. If they like Nakobe Dean, Al Shire at the will would make some sense to me.
Yeah. Josie Jewell, because he worked with Vic in Denver. I thought Blake Cashman would have been a good fit, but they lost. I don't know if they lost out or were interested. Even Willie Gay, maybe somebody in that range. I'm really surprised they haven't done something, but it's early in the process. It's only a couple days in. But as you mentioned, that the free agent market's kind of picked over, except there's that Jerome Baker was with Vic in Miami. But again,
Which
some of
could be
those
good or
Miami,
bad based on what we've heard about.
some of those Miami guys didn't like Vic's scheme, so who knows where he is? I think a lot of people make those connections and don't realize it can go a positive way, but it can go a negative way as well on both sides. They got it. I mean, if they had to play today, and thankfully they don't, it'd be Nakobe Dean if he's healthy, and Ben Van Sumeren. I mean, at this point, Zach Cunningham's looking pretty good.
I don't know. You saw Ben Van Sumeren in that preseason game.
Yeah.
What do you have? 200 tackles in that game?
Yeah. Hey, Ben's, Tyrell Dotson's a guy who came in Buffalo when Matt Milano was hurt and really played well. He's still out there. There's a couple guys.
And Buffalo signed Nick Morrow, so they're good at linebacker.
Yeah, they're all set with Nick Morrow.
Maybe that's not
think alike. I was just about to say, well, wait a minute, Buffalo let that guy walk out the door to sign Nick Morrow. That tells you what they think about the players. So,
it's a nice trade. It's a nice trade.
Probably pass on that one. All right. Eagles get their kicker locked up for the next 4 years. And good on him, because we all like Jake Elliott, and he deserves to be a highly paid kicker, paid as much as the top kicker in the NFL. Bit of a surprise. Eagles don't usually go to the top of the market, and they did so with the kicker, and they get to balance out their cap a little bit for the upcoming year because they do the extension. How big a deal is that? Is that just like standard operating procedure, or should we be like, yeah, now the Eagles are good. They put a position away, an important position, because all field goal kickers do is win and lose games for you. How big was that yesterday?
Yeah, it's nice to get done. It's top of the market now. We'll see what it is when the extension. I mean, he was close to top of the market the last extension too, and then other contracts come down. But he's been great, and he's a guy you don't want to lose. It's amazing because he was already a good kicker, but there were some shaky moments in that 19, 20 range, and then since 21 and this new staff, he's been incredible. He's made 15 of 17 kicks from 50 plus since the 21 season began.
That's unbelievable.
I mean, this dude is nails, and that kick in Buffalo, that 59-yarder, might be the best field goal I've ever seen.
Yeah, and I still say he set the Eagles. It was his kick against the Giants that set off the Eagles' run to a Super Bowl.
What's
I really
crazy?
believe
I did
that.
a story on during last season when he was on this great run. I did a story about the origin of how they got him, because it was kind of a fluky thing. Caleb Sturgis gets hurt. He was a draft pick that year out of Memphis. He goes to Cincinnati. He loses the kicking competition to Randy Bullock.
Bad
job. Then they try to get him. He's on the practice squad, so he's available. The Eagles actually watched him miss a 60-yarder in the preseason. He had plenty of leg on it, and I think he banged it off the upright. Like, a few inches could have decided whether or not Jake Elliott was here. If he makes that kick, maybe he wins that job. He's never available. It took so many kind of crazy things to line up for him to get here. And even that 61-yarder, John, against the Giants, like, if he misses that, I know that's a high degree difficulty kick, but he would have been like 3 for 5 or 3 for 6 at that point.
Yeah, who knows? At that point,
short,
it was
a short leash for kickers. So,
and heck, Alshon Jeffrey, the play before, setting it up. You know, people don't like to talk about Alshon, but you know, he had a big impact on that game. But just the fuel of that kick. Now 61-yarders are like yawn. We yawn at them, Dave. But back at that point, it was like, oof, that was a big time kick. And yeah, Jake Elliott. And the ironic thing is, place kicking is probably the worst thing he does. The guy's great at everything. He's great at ping pong, golf.
It is funny though. Like, his teammates always like, you know, there's the who's the best athlete.
Yeah.
And
Jake Elliott.
always say him, and it's like, well, what are we like? What? It's just so funny to me that like everyone says Jake Elliott, and then like AJ Brown walks by, and you're like, but like
softball. You know how I describe it? Anything that involves eye-hand coordination, Jake's the best at. You know,
it depends on your definition of like what athletic means.
Exactly.
Yeah, if you're talking about throwing down a two-hand slam, I'm going to take AJ Brown over.
Yeah, I'll take
Jake
AJ.
Elliott.
AJ's a hell of a baseball player too, but Jake Elliott, phenomenal. Carson Wentz, superstar softball player. He was banging home runs out in that charity game. So
I still think that's why they kept Richard Rodgers around.
Oh yeah,
as they did.
Richard was the biggest ringer of them all.
Yeah,
a tremendous softball player.
All right, listen, both of you two guys are writers. I'm gonna come up with my own narrative here and ask you whether when I'm done typing, are you gonna hit save, are you gonna hit print, or are you gonna hit delete?
Definitely not going to hit print.
Well, for your own personal edification, it's going to be so good you're going to want to save it.
PDF. All
right. May 1st, 2024, Philadelphia Eagles re-sign Quez Watkins. Print, save, delete.
Yeah,
Draft is come and gone. Haven't had another wide receiver. According to the head coach, Quez Watkins makes his two other wide receivers better players because he's so good at taking off. He's such a threat at taking the top off the defense. That's what makes Devontae Smith and AJ Smith and Devontae as great players as they are. Will Quez Watkins, after the draft, because they're not going to sign him before the draft, but if they get shut out on all those guys who ran 4.33 at the combine, will they re-sign Quez Watkins? I'm saying yes. Are you hitting save or delete?
Delete.
Yeah, I'm deleting. You know, I don't even think Quez wants back here.
He doesn't want back here.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't want to deal with this again. So it's both avenues. By the way, I don't think the Eagles want him back. I don't think Quez wants to be back. But that does bring up an important because Devontae Parker's here, and I think that's the more interesting question, Dave, because I don't think that means that much. They essentially, because of offset language with his Patriots contract, they're paying him the veteran minimum. Doesn't seem like a fit at his age, his size. Well, you know, other than why is Devontae Parker here? Because I still think they want a better third receiver, a better fit at third receiver. That move, it's not a big deal, but it just didn't make a lot of sense to me.
To me, it makes sense if you're looking at, you know, he's the fourth receiver. That makes sense to me. Like, if he's just a backup who can rotate in here and there, yeah, that's fine. Veteran minimum guy. I don't. You're right. I don't like him as a fit as the third guy because even though they're going to move these people around, like the receivers around, he's not a slot. Like most of his snaps in his career have come outside. So if he's a backup in case one of those top guys ever gets hurt, like, yeah, I think that's okay. You get him some snaps here and there if he makes the team. But I don't think he's the third guy. I think if you're looking at the five receivers on the team, you have AJ and Devontae 1, 2, you have Parker 4, you have Covey 5. That 3 is still open.
Could it be Brett and Covey? Could they give Britton Covey a chance to be that slot receiver, can run option routes? He's got tremendous short area quickness. Everybody looks at him and they roll his eye. He's a freaking best punt returner in the league or close to it last year. He's proved he's got some explosion. He's a high IQ guy. You talk to him all the time, and he's writing notes. He's really studying the opposition each week. He'd bring that same sort of presence to that role. Is that one where the Eagles should roll the dice and see if they can create a Wes Welker, Julian Edelman type who can run those option routes?
No. I like Britton Covey, no. And I think they can continue to develop him. But I think relying on that in a season where like you need to upgrade that fifth skill position, like I wouldn't.
But should he be given a chance? I agree they shouldn't count on it. Like that to me is a different definition. Should they be more open-minded? If he shows up at camp and opportunities, should they consider it?
Well, I mean, how do you separate the two, John? Because like you can't give him a chance if you bring someone else in. But if you bring someone else, you know what I mean? You can't rely on him to do it. So like, keep developing him and maybe one day he can do that. But I think you need to add somebody. Like you can't just go into camp with what you have. So I like Britton Covey. I think maybe there's something there, but in a season where we think this could be a good team.
Yeah.
A really good offense. I can't in good faith say, hey, Britton, you're basically a starter in this offense. I can't do that.
Well, let me throw an added layer to it. I mean, they have Barkley, they have AJ, they have Devontae, they have Dallas. I mean, that third receiver isn't getting a lot of traffic in theory, unless somebody gets hurt. I mean, that's a concern with every position. There's only one football. I can't imagine that whomever the third receiver, and by the way, I agree with you, it's not going to be Britton, but whomever it's going to be, things are not going well if that guy's getting a lot of targets.
Yeah, but like last year, was it a problem that they never found a third receiver? Like I think it was that, they were kind of like, is it Quez? Is it Olamide? Is it Julio? And then like when I say the fifth skill guy, I think it could be a tight end too, right?
Yeah,
like I think that position, whether it's a better tight end 2 or a better wide receiver 3, I think that position needs to be better just to balance out this offense a little bit.
Yeah, I just got a text. Alberto said, "That's me." Thanks, Dave Zangaro. So good luck with that, Alberto.
That might be the most surprising move of the Eagles offseason when they re-signed Alberto.
Because Howie traded for him.
Yeah, that's true. That's
Howie traded for him. But just remember, the coach loves Quez. I'm just saying, Coach loves Quez. All right, Dave Zangaro, I was lucky enough to have you on WIP with me on Sunday, and I asked you about the defensive line, the edge guys who are available for trade and or how it's going to shake out and the like. And you did say the Eagles should ask for a 1 for Josh Sweat. You didn't say they were going to get a 1 for Josh Sweat because they have no chance to get a 1 for Josh Sweat, but you did say they should ask for a 1. If you come down from that one, because the market is what the market is, they got no shot. They're not getting a 1. They're not getting a 2. Is 3 the best they'll get for Josh Sweat at this point?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if Brian Burns isn't getting you 1, I mean, yeah, I think Josh Sweat is a valuable player. Like, I don't know what I'm missing here.
Yeah, what I'm with you. I've thrown out that maybe Vic just wants a different style on the edges because Josh is more.
It looks that way, right? Yeah, like you see, like it seems like they have a type. Whether it's like the addition of Bryce Huff kind of shows that, and Sweat is kind of a bigger lumbering guy. Lumbering is not fair to say. He's fairly fast in a straight line, but if you have to drop in coverage, that's certainly not going to be his strength. Not going to be BG's strength either, but like I think everyone's willing to overlook that because it's BG. Yeah. But yeah, I guess it's a type thing. And then that's a little scary too, because you're talking about a 26-year-old edge rusher who like has already proven he can play at a really high level. I think it's always dangerous to just like completely change your personnel to fit one guy scheme because, and I know they can't look at it this way. I can look at it this way. What if this doesn't work? Well, what if this season doesn't go well and Vic Fangio's out and then you got rid of a 26-year-old edge rusher who might fit the next defense really well?
Yeah.
I know they can't look at it like that. They got to be all in on what they're doing, but that's the fear in the back of my mind.
I'm with you. I don't get the Josh Sweat stuff at all, other than, you didn't have a great end of the season, but who did? As you pointed out before, that defense was a disaster. And how do you parse it from Sean Desai to Matt Patricia? It's really difficult. At D Zangaro NBCS, make sure you follow Dave on X. Read him, NBC Sports Philadelphia, and you can watch him. You turn on. Right now, he's probably on somehow. He's probably doing a double spot. So, doing plenty of work.
Flyers highlights. It's not Dave. For a change, it's not Dave right now on NBC Sports Philly.
Doing a ton of good stuff with our buddies John Clark and Ruben Frank and the whole crew there. So, you've done a tremendous thing during free agency. I hate free agency grades. I think they're silly. Sillier than even mock drafts before free agency begins. One thing that's interesting to me, and I don't know if you saw, Rob Motti, our buddy from the AP, reported that the Eagles had an offer out to Joe Flacco to be the backup quarterback. That tells me that Tanner McKee's not going to be the backup. They're going to get a veteran. Is that your sense in the fact that this team probably believes in the backup quarterback more than most, and they're not just going to default to Tanner McKee?
Yeah, I guess so. I was kind of looking forward to seeing if Tanner McKee would be the backup.
So was I. I
saw a lot of good things from him last year. I know it's limited time, but that's why you drafted him, right? Like, if you can get your 6th-round pick to be a backup for 3 years, that's a major expense you've saved. Now, maybe they're like, we just can't trust him in that role, and I kind of get that. But, man, I was kind of thinking like a lower-level veteran, like, and the name I keep coming back to is Easton Stick, and Jody doesn't like that, but I think that
he stinks.
Yeah, but that's kind of the idea, Jody, is like, he's not very good.
Well, nobody's very good as a backup. I mean, they're backups, right?
It was my idea. I'm on record. I think I said it with you the other day, Dave. I know I've said it plenty. Give me a Mason Rudolph. He went in and went 3-0 in the end of the season last year. Actually got the Steelers into the playoffs when it looked like Mike Tomlin's streak was going by the book of winning seasons. And he signs for under $4 million. Is it that much better if I pay Easton Stick 2.5 than 3.9 for Mason Rudolph? I'm actually going to just shockingly, as an NFL general manager, I think your job is to try and sign a better player.
I get that, but like, I think a low-level veteran, this was my perspective, because I like Tanner McKee. I think Tanner McKee can be the backup. If you bring in a low-level veteran who can compete with him, but also a low-level veteran, like Tanner McKee could win that job, and I think that would be the ideal outcome. Like, I think they'd be secretly rooting for Tanner McKee to win that job if it's against a really low-level veteran.
Could Tanner McKee beat out Mason Rudolph?
Maybe, yeah.
Okay, well, then that's why I take Mason Rudolph, because if Tanner McKee's that good, good, yeah, way to go, Tanner. If he beat out Easton Stick, you know what I'm going to say?
$2 million extra dollars for that competition.
He's not beating out Joe Flacco down at the Legacy Diner here in South Jersey.
They didn't get Zane Steichen again thwarting the Eagles by getting Joe Flacco. Dave Z, always a pleasure, buddy. Thank you very much for hopping on. We'll get you in a couple of weeks when we're further down the road, certainly before the draft. Dave does a great job with the draft stuff on NBC Sports as well. So you need to start looking for that when free agency cools. Dave, thank you.
All right, guys, take care.
Dave Zangaro here with us on Birds 365. All right, quickie timeout. You know what we got to do, put a bow on the show. Stay right there.
Imagine for a moment that you went to work today and when you came home, you were catastrophically injured. Your life and your family's life. That's what happened to union construction worker Mike Little.
I was scared of what the end was going to be, but to be 100% honest with you, I knew I was going to be all right just by talking with Brian. In my heart, I just knew everything was going to be all right.
Call the firm and find out why they say, "We got this." Call 215-458-2222.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Underdog Fantasy is the easiest place to play fantasy sports, and certainly the easiest when you're watching the NBA. And the NBA playoffs are almost here, and you can win money making picks. What are you waiting for? Sign up on UnderdogFantasy.com and use the promo code WIN. An Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN. Get ready for the NBA and get ready for the NBA playoffs. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN.
Hi everybody, my name's Jason Lombardi. I'm an inspector at DryTech. At DryTech we offer three major services. The first one being basement waterproofing. The second service we offer is foundation and structural repairs. And then the third service that we offer is mold remediation. If you feel you are having a waterproofing issue, give DryTech a call or check us out online.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
For the big story on Action News,
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
EAGLES. Eagles.
Running out of time here on this Thursday free agent edition of Birds 365. We went through all the Eagles' moves and looking into the future and questioning when they're going to get into the linebacker market. Haven't yet, and it's starting to get thin fast. We've thrown the name Jerome Baker around plenty. How do you grade out on PFF last year?
Number 41. Number 41 out of let me double check. 41 out of 82. Wow, 50
right in the middle. He's
at
the 50%
right
mark.
in the middle, right in the middle. But I will say, as a comparison, Josie Jewell, a name I mentioned, was 40. Zach Cunningham was 37. Nicholas Morrow was 36. Trying to see some of the other names. Eric Kendricks was 25. Looks like they never had any interest. Jordan Hicks, how about that, was 22. He resigned, not resigned. He went to Cleveland with Jim Swartz. So a little bit of a reunion there. Blake Cashman is the guy, and I forget who he signed with, but he was 8th. He was the TJ Edwards of this year. Although TJ was pretty stinking. TJ was 11th. TJ was stinking good. But Blake was actually, he was a Jet draft pick, wasn't he, Jody? Blake Cash?
I don't remember. If that's the case, I apologize for forgetting, but I don't remember.
I think it was a 5th round pick. Maybe it wasn't the Jets, but I think he was a 5th round pick. I'm double checking. He had a great season in Houston. Was a special teamer early in his career. Yeah, Jets, 19. Okay. 5th round pick. And he was a good special teams player. Then he gets a chance in Houston and he just plays, and he plays well, and he was out there and he got a decent contract, but it wasn't overwhelming. Signed with Minnesota 3 years, $22.5 million. I would have taken a swing there. I would have taken a swing.
Your fave, Kelce, has actually done a decent job looking at. I know you hate the grade as you go aspect of the free agent signing period, but I actually think he's done it.
I am interested in Sam Darnold, believe it or not, for this reason. But he's got the talent, the arm talent, all that stuff, the athleticism. He got a year with Kyle Shanahan in San Francisco as the backup. He played well in that one game at the end of the season. They run the exact same offense. Kevin O'Connell's not changing the offense. We saw that last year with Josh Dobbs. He's got Josh Dobbs trying to play action, drop back like he's Kirk Cousins. That's Sam Darnold could be that type of quarterback, and they don't want to pay $200 million to Kirk Cousins. So I will give Kelce credit. He had to move on, and he did. But they have to get a quarterback. How do you get a quarterback?
I still think they've got there's a very good chance they're going to use a first-round draft pick on a quarterback. But I like some of the other moves he made. All right, tomorrow we're going to push out the double Ds. That would be DeCecco and Domowich will be here with us mañana on a football
double
Friday.
Ds.
Double Ds, DeCecco and Domowich. So you want to be tuned tomorrow and check them out. Partner, I'm in for tomorrow at 22 hours.
By the way, real quick, breaking, not that it's news. Bryce Hupp, Saquon, and Zach Baun going to be introduced later this afternoon at the NovaCare complex.
So McMullen's got to go to work. I'll be watching probably with Dave Zangaro commentary on NBC Sports Philadelphia. J-Mac, you and me again tomorrow in 2 and 2. Be tuned, everybody.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate inside the locker room and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.